out to some of us, and we did our best to help them. And it looks like some of those issues are moving along over there. So we're also happy to help you, even if you're not strictly sick plan. We'll do our best, but also talk to CARES and other groups as well. So we'd love to talk if about anything at all. And Alexandra.
Thanks, Shriram. So I'm Alexandra Silva, and I'm a professor at UCL in London. And like Shriram, I'm also very excited that we now have CARES and that we can provide any advice and support needed for the community. I don't have much to add to what Catherine and Shriram already said. Please do ask questions either on Clowder or join us on Zoom. So I'll monitor the Clowder chat for a moment, see if anyone asks questions there. Oh, we lost Shriram.
Shriram wants to have a better background, so he's leaving and come back. This is my background, my husband's art, and like you can see my ideas painting also.
A really cool one. Like that. I saw we have 2 people who joined. Let's see.
So if we don't have questions, we might talk about what the some of the things that the community is doing. Your background didn't change, Shriram, sorry. You're muted now, though. So
I think I may need to have got logged out or something. I'll just stay here. It's fine. Yeah.
So there's a couple things that the community is doing to try to be more inclusive. So until we get a question, I'll talk about that a little. So we have the programming languages mentoring workshops. And so at ICFP, UPSLA, PLDI, and POPL, we have the senior and early career people, a range of people who going through different parts of their career, give advice to PhD students and also to people who are considering going to grad school. And we talk about things like how to find a research topic, how to work with your advisor. So both technical things and social things. Research is a social process. So you have to write good papers and talk about your work. And so we give advice on all the different aspects, including soft skills as well as technical areas. And so a lot of students have indicated that they found those positive and useful. And I just love doing those for some reason. So I've done a bunch of those for the past 20 years, essentially. And I always feel like I learned something about my career from the other speakers and what I can do better, but also just it's a way to get to know a few people in the community because you get to have lunch with them. So if you're a PhD student, I'd highly recommend that you do attend one of those.
Yeah, we can also mention the long-term mentoring program that SIGPlan is setting up, which started in ICFP. Talia Ringer did that mostly on her own at ICFP, which was a great effort for and really delivered for the community. She matched around 180 mentees and mentors, and these included not only grad students but also postdocs and early career faculty that are seeking more long-term advice. So PLMW is a sort of a one-day event, and of course many relationships form during PLMW that continue along the years. But Talia set up a more formal program, and now we are working on taking it all of sort of SIGPlan wide, and that hopefully will be ready in time for POPL. We did, Talia and a few more people did do some more matches for Splash, so I think some of the attendants of Splash had the opportunity to also subscribe to the long-term mentoring program. So that's also another thing that I think will be very positive also for early career faculty.
It's funny there, actually. I think 3 of my 4 mentees are not actually SIGPlan people at all. So somehow word of this event has gotten out, and that's fine by me. I mean, it's great. And, if SIGPlan is actually taking a lead on something that other communities are sort of neglecting, I think that's so much the better. Just it's pretty
The
typical
power
SIG
of
plan.
Twitter,
Or something like that. Yeah.
Talia tried very hard to get more mentors to subscribe via Twitter, and then I think that also
That had the effect of also increasing the number of mentees. Yeah.
So at the moment, I think there's only about 20 to 25 people who are unmatched, which I think is great. So there's about
okay.
150 who are matched.
I should go sign up for a few more then. Okay. So there really are some unmatched at this point?
There are, but I think some of the unmatched ones are not only for the lack of space with mentors, but perhaps expectations and what they are seeking for. So
yeah. I mean, it could also be that maybe at some point she decided to cut off the people who are not strictly SIG plan. We're trying to prioritize for that.
No. So, I mean, I'm now helping her out.
Great.
And no, it's really about, I mean, the matching process does take time and care.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It's interesting. It looks like other communities have been doing this a bit more organized than we are. I looked around for systems that we could use to help with matching, and there's a system coming from biochemistry and people in biochemistry. I think the NSF sponsored the development of the system.
Wow.
And they are now sort of selling it as a service to other communities.
Wow.
So
okay.
you might have access to that. It's called the National Mentoring Network for Bio.
I'm curious, how much can a system do? Because it seems like at the end of the day, it's a lot of, careful like knowledge of people and reading and saying, okay, what if these, it's not like keyword matching, right? Or is the plan to try to move it more in that direction maybe?
No, so it's a bit different. So like at the moment, I can tell you a little bit, like for Splash, there were 6 of us doing matches, and it still took each of us perhaps about 1 hour to match 6 people.
Okay.
And the idea with the system is to move the matching a little bit more on the mentee side, where you can give options for profiles of people, and they can make an initial filtering so that when a human goes and really fixes a match, there's already been a lot of filtering, and you don't have to go through 200 mentors to sort of find the right person.
And doing the load balancing and stuff like that. Yeah.
So in the computer architecture community, you can list, so they do at conference matching, kind of like Jens's breakfasts, like have a breakfast with somebody senior in the field. So they do like meet an architect, and you say you just say who you want to meet from the mentors, and you can say if you have a topic you'd like to discuss, say giving presentations, or if you want to talk about disaggregated storage or whatever it is technically that's on your mind, you can also ask for advice on a technical topic. And then it does become more keyword matching. Oh, good, Steve. Ask us a question, because no one's asked us any questions, so we're running out of things to say.
Yeah, don't ask us hard questions, Steve.
You never know what you ask for. You want a question, he will ask a question.
That's right. By the way, is my screen share showing? Should I stop sharing it? I don't know what's...
You're showing, yes.
Okay. But you can still see other people's faces, right? Like I can see Steve.
Yes.
Okay, good.
And I can see you guys.
Excellent. Are the packets upside down, Steve? Were they okay? Do we look the right side? I'm sorry. Sorry. There you go. Attaboy. That's the way you do it.
We're from down under.
Yeah. Where are you? You look like you're in your work building.
I am. I've come in
your work building.
Yeah, it's
They don't have COVID anymore.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Is that really the case? Like you're all like...
I'm not in America. I think it's the answer.
Yeah, okay. That's
or Europe, as it seems.
Yeah. So these days, yes.
Yeah, no, actually, I've been at home. I've worked from home since March, but other folks haven't. And because 2 of my students and I are doing a lot of the Splash organization, we set a room up here, and we've been doing it 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. from one of the rooms here in the buildings. Going well. And we've had up to like 8, maybe 10 people in the room watching Splash, participating in Splash remotely.
8 people in one room. That's unheard of.
It does.
Well, I had 8 in my classroom until Monday, so it's not unheard of. But
it's in a classroom for 100, right?
Classroom for about 30 and about 60. close to 60.
You
Yeah,
have
we
to
have signs. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Well, each of the rooms here has a sign on it saying how many people are allowed in it. The one I'm in is a very large seminar room, which probably seats 150, and it's allowed 27 people at the moment.
Okay. So how are things going with Splash?
I think pretty well. We had a few hiccups. Unfortunately, there's a hiccup with CARES, a scheduling mishap, and then Vikram didn't get the message, and stuff happened. Yeah.
Did people try to attend this morning? Yes. No one from CARES actually, the link Harish sent us didn't work, and then I was asleep, so I couldn't help them connect to the right people. I should have done.
Unfortunately, the rebase conference, there was some sort of slightly casual organizational stuff there, which meant that the plan of
Casual organization. Got it. we get everything else from there, Steve. We totally get it. That's well played. Casual organization.
That means they didn't do it carefully enough. Is that what you said?
Casual. Lackadaisical.
I was really sleep deprived after chairing Mary Lou's talk and then going to the ASPOS PC meeting with 4 hours sleep, and then finally at nearly 11 I'm going to sleep after this very long day, and my phone rings on the emergency line that the organisers have set up, saying that there's a real problem and there was some sort of calamity with Robert Grimm's talk. He didn't show up for the talk and blah blah blah. But those are the two only.
So you think Robert Grimm was the calamity with Robert Grimm's talk? In other words.
Did you see the talk?
No. Was it?
Oh man, you've got to see that talk. Whoa, it's something else. I saw the original. I saw the first edition. The second edition, he forgot to show up, and then luckily the guys here are systematically recording everything in case there's an emergency, and so but it's in 15-minute packets, so they had to scrape off some disk, these 15-minute packets, stitch them together, open up a Zoom session, and then start streaming, which they did.
No.
But Robert forgot to turn up. Anyway, his I highly recommend you look at his talk. It's quite something. It's sort of a very no holds barred takedown of Facebook.
Oh, is this his Facebook expose talk? Okay, yeah. It's been brewing for a while. I think it's been clear from social media that it's in him and it's like waiting to erupt. So
Emery was the moderator, and his first question was, "So Robert, maybe you can tell us what you really think."
Right.
Coming from Emery too. What is it on YouTube? Can we go watch it?
He's doing it again soon because of that mess up. He's doing it again sometime, like in the next 12 hours, I think. Anyway, I'm sure it'll become very visible fairly soon.
So what we've done I'm active in CRA virtual conferences, CRA WP, widening participation. And so what we've done is we've recorded all the talks, so that the portion where you're not taking questions or interacting with anybody is recorded. And then you're supposed to be there for the interactive part afterwards. So there's less chance for all kinds of disasters for at least part of the content.
Right. So the thing that's interesting about Splash and makes it kind of exciting and fun to be on the organizing committee is it's a mishmash of a whole lot of ragtag conferences that have their own ideas about how to run stuff. Mm-hmm. So Dave Grove ran Oopsler, and it's gone very smoothly. And he ran it the way you just said, Catherine. The speakers pre-recorded everything, and that was all done very smoothly. There are other bits which were a little bit more exotic, a little bit more fun for the team.
Keynotes.
So
if you're interested,
go ahead.
I just was saying for anyone who's listening, if you're interested, we were talking about mentoring opportunities. So the CRAWP workshops for women and minority students are a great resource. The web pages are great resources for advice for anyone. You can go listen to the talks that are recorded and the materials that are collected. But if you want additional more people who look like you, more support. These conferences are online and very good and normally in person. Go ahead, Steve.
I wasn't going to say anything as interesting as that. I was just going to ask how things are going with CARES. That's really all I was going to ask.
Well, so we've had some people reach out to us and talk to us about different things. Fortunately, we have we're not uncovering like tons of terrible things, although there's people are struggling with different things at different times. So we're glad to be here and be a resource.
I think you being visible is very important.
I mean, there was also a very public incident in networking a few weeks ago, or maybe at this point it's months ago. And so I guess some of us got involved in that as well. So, it sounds like having CARES over networking has also been valuable in that regard. And so I'm realizing the value of having some overlap between these, or not necessarily people overlap, but at least people who know each other, because now you can talk to somebody in a CARES of another community for all sorts of reasons, sometimes to refer something, or sometimes just ask like, how would you have dealt with this, or something like that. So.
Right, and getting processes clearer is helpful. I'm not much of a process person, but there are places like this where it really helps. Because it sounded like, I read that some of the networking, what was visible, publicly visible about the networking stuff, it sounded like they lacked good process there. Initially, they had good intentions, but things didn't go quite as smoothly as they might have done.
Well, and I think the thing is also like, you, as we all know, you can never get all of the processes in place up front. But what do you do when something does happen, right? Like what are your instincts when you react? And I think that may be in the bigger problem is not so much the lack of processes, but their instincts for reacting were, I think, sort of like almost pessimal, right? Like almost the worst possible way to handle this. So, yeah. So I'd like to think we'll do better if we end up in that situation. I'd like to hope we don't end up in that situation.
Yeah, it sounded pretty miserable.
Yeah.
And also for the Ask Plus program committee, we do have Vijay Kumar had posted on Medium that there's the related to the ISCA suicide a year and a half ago. The person who there is a person who's repeatedly posting stuff, and that person reached out to Vijay and alleged that there's collusion going on the Ask Plus program committee. So many people, the program chairs were aware of this going in. They made a bunch of changes to try to protect the process. But until there's some concrete evidence of if what's going on and malfeasance, then there's a limited amount that any program chair can do. But the community should know that all the organizers of these events are taking these allegations very seriously, trying to put in even better and better processes to protect the community against people who would not act ethically. And everyone takes this as hugely serious. The ethics of our community and science depend on us doing a good job, and people are trying very hard to do their best here. And it's not being ignored, even though you might not see a lot on Twitter, etc. That these things are being is happening, and so some of it is appearing. But I feel people are impatient because we have not yet heard from ACM about their third investigation of what happened at ISCA, and so that I can understand why people feel that there's not enough transparency and there's not enough going on in this area. And I also feel like I really want to hear from ACM now, and we haven't yet. So that's where we are in that circumstance.
And how long has the third investigation been going on?
Since about, I think it started in January, and also the University of Florida was investigating the advisor of the student. And as far as I know, I have searched on the Florida websites, and was there ever a finding? If there was, it wasn't made public. And I think it would be reported in it was reported in the student newspaper initially, so, but no follow-up. I haven't searched like in the last month, so there might be something more recent, but I did search sometime a couple months ago.
I mean, these investigations always take a lot of time, and one has to find the balance between patience so that the due process can be followed.
Well, and also universities are quite happy to let a thing take long enough that everyone's forgotten about it by the time the investigation finishes. Let's be honest, right? That's also a small factor here. I mean, obviously this year with COVID and whatnot, obviously things are going to be slower, but I think universities are perfectly happy to not rush these kinds of things through as well.
I think even before COVID, things would take a long time for other reasons. I mean,
Yeah.
Although from the outside, it can look very different. Just by complete coincidence over coffee this morning, a few hours ago, this came up, this particular incident just came up left field. And the view from outside, from someone who didn't know anything about what was going on, was that this was, that they had a very dim view of this, and that it's just, this person wasn't an academic, they were a government researcher, and they just like, oh, it's just academics covering for each other, they're hopeless. And, they had a very conspiratorial view of it. And I'm like, well, they're just slow, unacceptably slow, but slow. I'm not sure that that's really, things are as, that people are as conniving as that. I think it's just our processes aren't very good and very, very quick.
I mean, it's not clear to me if the investigations are being carried out by academics at all, right? I mean.
Oh, sure.
No,
I'm just reflecting what this person's view was that, which I thought was interesting.
The academics set the agenda. Sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
I was just going to say, academics really aren't equipped to take on basically investigations that require investigative and police and skills and lawyer skills. Like, that's not our forte. So then you have to hire and pay people, and academic institutions aren't really interested in doing that either.
But I've seen numerous documentations of various sort of academic fraud cases, and it's always, I mean, even after 3 years when everything is wrapped up, the outcome is never as pretty as I would like, right? It's always like, yeah, there's a report, but the report is not made public. There's the professor in charge is chastised, or they quietly leave and go away, but it always seems like the outcomes never seem to match the severity of the actions. It's very frequently the case. Universities don't want to, as I say, don't want to end up on the front page of the New York Times for the wrong reasons. So,
well, I'm sure they don't, but I've been unfortunately exposed to one of these things just in the last year, and I could say it was dealt with quickly, and it was done. They hired an external person to run the investigation, a senior lawyer who had a lot of experience with doing this sort of investigations in the government. They hired this person because I was on the fringe of it. I got interviewed, and anyway, it was a very formal process, and probably from start to end was 3 months, and at the end the person was fired. So it was mucking around.
So it does depend on the institution.
Yeah. Oh, that's a depressing note. Yeah, Catherine, that latest posting was really scary, because it sounds like there's still things going on, and sort of everything seems to run deeper, which I guess it's good that we're finding out if things are going on, but it did seem like it was sort of like a collusion ring going on behind the scenes. Yeah.
Very disturbing.
Yeah. And I've never run into even like a whiff of that on all the PCs I've been on, and I don't know. Maybe we're just a little lucky in this front or something.
Or maybe naive. I mean,
Sure.
My reaction was like yours, Sriram. When I first heard of the ISCA thing, I could barely believe it was true. I could barely believe it was happening.
The difference is I had no difficulty believing it was true at all. Not even the slightest, like, of course this is going to happen. It's just unfortunate that it has happened. And I'm a little surprised I have not seen it happen with my own eyes. That was my reaction.
Well,
I've been
Silva and
on-
I see it differently. I did see it. I mean, I'm naive, okay? So I just saw it that way. But I was just shocked. I just couldn't believe it.
I'm never shocked at what people can do, but
Guys, that's why you guys are on the chaos committee. You're hard.
all right. But I have been on PCs now since 1995 was my first PC. And my view of the process is that all the papers I'm involved in seem to be made with like the arguments are principled. I don't ever feel like someone's making a crazy, like I've never come away and said, wow, that person like really had a different view of that paper that I couldn't understand at all. And they're completely nuts. I've always felt like, even if I don't agree with people, they're making valid points for the most part. And so, and they just have different value judgments on what they think is important or not. I have never felt like, oh, this person was working to get this paper in because it serves some other agenda. And so, and I am pretty jaded about people, right? You feel
I have seen that though, Catherine. I can vividly remember a senior member of my field like buttonholing me saying, hey, this paper needs to get in and that paper, because this is my favorite paper and blah, blah, blah. And
right.
It's like,
well, but that was technical really versus.
Oh yeah, I don't think it was kind of evil in the sense that there was some grand complex scheme where someone was scheming to get certain papers in. It was this person just really liked this paper and they wanted horse trading, saying like, I'll help one of your papers get in if you get one of mine. Like,
okay. All right. So I remember that.
But I mean, the Medium post was much more complex than trading horses during the peace. Right?
Oh yeah.
It was collusion.
It's a well laid out scheme and everything. Yeah.
This person was doing it at the bus stop on the way to the PC.
The bus was late. The bus that takes us to the meeting was late, and so we're filling in dead air by horse trading on paper.
Oh, that's hilarious!
I kid you not.
Well, at least you did it out in the open. I think that's fine. I mean, that's sort of par for the course a little bit.
Sure, I think the two of us were in a meeting where this happened.
Yeah. I was wondering if yes. Yeah.
During coffee break, but yeah, sometimes.
Yep. I mean, there's a different kind of not good faith that I have seen, not very often, but I've certainly seen my share of it, where basically people take a position not on the paper, but on the subject area of the paper, right? Like anything on this topic should be treated very gently, and anything on this topic should be treated very harshly. And it's sort of irrespective. I mean, I can still remember a paper that's vividly remember the PC member, the paper and everything. The paper was complete crap, but the PC member loved it because it used their favorite technique to show that something they hated was crap. And I mean, the paper had no connection to reality. Like it was, you don't like that technique because you don't understand it. And this paper shares your complete lack of understanding. But that was it. Like they got validation on both sides, like coming and going, right? And that was very close to a not in good faith kind of argument.
Okay. So then you have the people who I love this flavor of paper and I want them all to get in. And you have people who are, oh, this paper is competing with me. I want none of their papers to ever get in. And so I have definitely seen that self-interest expressed in both the negative way, like I only want papers on this topic that I author in, like that seems nuts. You forget that they're citing you and you need your paper to be cited. Like that's not even in your own self-interest as far as I'm concerned. And so, but people don't think that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that is pretty human. Like
for sure.
We are human. We
sure.
sometimes act in our own self-interest instead of in the interest of science, but that's why we have a committee and we discuss these things in the open. So hopefully people can say, oh, but this topic is we already have 10 papers on this topic. Maybe we don't need 20 on this one narrow area.
But the thing that's amusing, Catherine, The amusing thing is when they think they're super rational people, though, right? Like, I'm totally down with this. This is all totally fine. But they're like, no, this is just fact. This is science. I mean, this is just like mathematics. You can't argue about this. Like, well, you really want to hear about it? So that's what's always amusing. But.
Well, and then I'm not biased, like double
Yeah,
bluff. I'm not biased. I'm not biased for or against different people. I am
rational.
really looking at the science.
That's right. Yeah.
Hey, so I've got a question for you folks. When one of the roles I feel like I have as a professor teaching an intro class is, apart from the obvious, is about setting standards and norms with respect to things like academic integrity, because people have come from diverse backgrounds. They've come from, we have a job as educators in educating people on these things, I think, right? So I've got some colleagues like, forget about it. But I feel like particularly taking an intro class, saying, well, this is how we do stuff here, is a really important part of it. And I'm just wondering, with respect to CARES, how that applies with respect to graduate student education, or how we as a large community are thinking about how we're talking about culture here, academic culture, and how you change that culture, and what role and how proactive are we being about thinking through that, how that culture change will happen.
All right, our time is up. I think on that note, we all have responsibility for that.
Oh, Catherine, well done. I was waiting to see if you would play the time card. Well done. We are in the presence of a superior force, people. Take notes.
I think that's an important subject. But I actually have another meeting that I'm late to.
He does this every meeting, Sriram. Every meeting is like,
Why do I get the sinking feeling Steve's going to be back in exactly like 1 hour or whatever with the same damn question?
Come back for the next care session.
Come back for the next one. Let's keep talking. All right, folks. See you in about an hour, whenever the next meeting is. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Bye. Thanks.
Like 4 or 5 hours. It's just enough time that we won't it's just enough time that two workshop, like our various mirroring workshops won't keep it alive, but it's just short, but it's just
now.
Sorry,
all good. I can hear us streaming, so that's good.
Yes. Sorry, I was getting slightly disconcerted by hearing my own voice. It's just long enough that we lose the link, but it's just short enough that we but it's just short enough that we can't no, how do I say this? It's just long enough that it confuses people, because they see like this, the last couple of seconds that it streamed, that YouTube is like, I will play this back in the desperate hope that the stream comes back alive.
Yeah.
But no, it's just very.
That's what we were seeing before. That's all right. For now, they're just seeing previous workshop, which is fine, and this is live, so this is fine. So we'll just leave it, and I will leave my Zoom, I guess, running here.
Yep, sounds good. I'll transfer hostship to you then.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, and I should probably go off and make dinner now. Have a good night. Yeah, so I'm going to be handing over to Wenyu and Zisyan for the mirror. So
oh yeah.
I'll sort of be going off-ish shift in the next couple of hours.
You should be able to go off for the next 10 hours at least, and without worry or whatever.
Without worrying is probably a little bit of an overstatement, as long as the pre-records that I put together for the award session and the keynote work.
Yeah, but Wenyu and Jishan, for example, they had to recover Robert's video yesterday, and they managed to do that. So
good point.
They can handle it.
All right. Have a good night.
Have a good night. Bye now.
See you.
How's it going, Alex?
Hi, Hardesh. We're live on YouTube. I'm just sitting here writing a review for an ESOP paper and
Oh, that's
keeping it
fantastic.
alive. But I will leave soon because I need to pick up kids from school in about half an hour.
Yeah, I will be here. So I just saw that there's a need to keep this room alive.
Yeah, it just makes it easier. So are you going to stay here?
Yeah, I'll just leave I
Okay,
have to
there.
go eat
I
dinner,
will
but
make
I'm
you
gonna leave
host.
I'm just
You're
gonna
now
leave
host.
when is the session?
Oh, it's still another like hour, maybe not hour, but something like that. I haven't looked at it.
Okay.
Program.
Share
Where are
session.
we?
7:40.
At 40 past, so it's about 45 minutes away.
Okay, so I'll just stay here. I'll put I will leave this on, and just go eat dinner and come back.
No, that sounds perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
so I may
sounds-
disconnect then at some point.
Yep. Everything okay? Going okay for you?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So we just
people
need
are
to change
watching
more sessions.
our chit chat on the YouTube, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. Right now we are live on YouTube, but that's okay. We may as well just continue on Slack. All right.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. All right. See you then. I'm gonna go eat dinner. I'll be right back.
Bye, Haridash.
Yep. See you. How are you doing? I can't hear you just yet.
Muted. I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. Day 4 is almost about to end. So yeah. So this session is live on YouTube. I don't know whether
Right.
you knew that.
Yeah, we did that at whatever, an hour ago.
Yep. Okay. Good.
And we had only one visitor, which was Steve Blackburn, but that was okay. We managed to fill up the time chatting.
Okay. I don't know how these sessions are supposed to work. I haven't done this before, so.
So what we did was I introduced myself, and then I introduced, and then Sriram introduced himself, and then Alexa introduced herself, and we talked about like why CARES exists. We gave like, we're PL researchers. We want the community to be a nice place and inclusive, so we're excited to do this. And then we opened it up for questions, and because no one asked questions, we just chatted about random stuff. We chatted a lot about the things the community is doing to try to make it a better place, like the PLMWs, the Programming Language Mentoring Workshops, the long-term mentoring relationships. So,
okay.
And then you can ask us questions if you want and keep us going.
Yeah,
Alex did not ask us anything.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is just make a couple more announcements. So is it customary for the conference organizers to be present, or is it supposed to be a forum just for the attendees to voice their concerns?
We can do anything we want. People ask questions. If they want to contact us and address concerns, they should do that privately. They shouldn't do it on on YouTube, right?
Yeah, sure. No, that's what I thought.
Right. So we're just publicizing our existence and what we're here for, and then please contact us privately. I'm gonna run to the restroom and come right back since we.
Sounds good.
All right. And we're sorry that I should have CC'd you on the email to the other people, since I wasn't getting up at whatever it was, 4 a.m. in the morning to go to the other sessions, so they could have had it. But it seems that we have limited attendees, so it's probably not a big deal.
Yeah, I think the I am trying to advertise it a little bit more. It's really hard to get people into social settings in these virtual conferences.
Yeah.
I think that's folks are just happy to be at the do the technical work and then go forward and move on. That has been the we'll see. So we begin in 1 minute. That's
Right, where are my
co-organizers.
co-organizers are running a little late here.
That's so where are you these days? Are you back at the university, or are you were at Microsoft? Yes.
Yes, but not, I'm at Google now.
Oh, you're at Google.
I've been at Google for about 3.5 years.
Okay.
Almost 4 years, actually.
Still maintaining a university position, I guess.
I have my web page there because I just have never gotten a new
that's okay.
new email, but or web page, but that's just laziness versus.
If it works, right? Hi there.
Hi.
I'm Hridesh
Hey,
Rajan. I don't think we have met. And it looks like Shriram is here as well. Hi, Shriram.
You're muted, Shriram.
It's been a very long time, Hridesh. It's great to see you again.
It has been a very long time. I think for some years.
It has.
You didn't.
So, go ahead.
No, I was going to say last time I saw many of the colleagues here was in Athens, but I don't think I saw you at Athens. You were
No,
you
it's
were,
been a while since I've been to any conferences at all. Actually, about 5-6 years. So
yeah.
Where was Splash supposed to be?
Chicago.
Okay, so that's why you have the Chicago background. Got it. Okay.
Yep, and that's what the bean is for. The logo. Is the.
Got it.
And hopefully it will be there next year in physically. Yeah.
Yep. So is that the idea? Everything's moving forward by 1 year, or?
In the hotel contracts, they don't punish you as much if you keep it at the same place.
Oh, that's how they're handling it. Oh, very clever. Okay. Yeah, Kathy, did you know that apparently the hotel contracts, they don't punish you as much if you keep it in the same place for the next year? So I wonder what other conferences that's going to impact.
Oh. Yeah, so it has been so far so good. I think we have an attendee here, and I think folks are joining via YouTube and conference platform. So I think you can go ahead and get started. You are visible now on the conference platform.
We don't have a pitch or anything. I guess, Catherine, you always lead off with a pitch, and you do it so well. So I think we should.
So I'm Catherine McKinley, and I am the co-chair of CARES, and CARES is a new kind of community resource inside ACM, and ours is specific to SIGPlan. And we're resources if someone in the community experiences harassment, discrimination, or ethical concerns that they'd like to discuss with somebody before reporting or understand how the reporting would work. So we're support for an individual. We're not, you're not reporting to us. We don't have to report. Like if you're familiar with Title IX in the US, some people have to report if you talk to them. That's not us. We're just there to be about you and help support you if something untoward happens. And we're I'm the co-chair of the committee, and I've been in the PL research community now since I started grad school, and I won't tell you when that was. And and so I'm excited to make computer science and programming languages in particular a more welcoming discipline for people of all types, women and minorities. And so I feel that this is a step in just addressing inclusion and events that trying to make listen to what the community's saying. So we don't expect you to discuss any concerns with us here. And so if you want to discuss something personal, please send us email and we'll set up a time to talk to you. And so Sriram, why don't you introduce yourself next?
I went after you last time, so let's have Alexandra go after you.
Okay.
I can go next. So I'm Alexandra Silva, and I'm a professor at University College London, and I'm one of the members of SIGPlan Cares. And yeah, all that Catherine said, we're here to support anyone who wants to discuss anything related to harassment, discrimination, or any other subject that might have made you feel uncomfortable in any way. Yeah, I'll pass to you, Sriram.
Thank you, Alexandra and Catherine. So hi, I'm Sriram. I'm a professor at Brown. Nothing to add necessarily here, just also want to welcome people who are in on the call or would like to join us. I really want to emphasize we're here for anything that you can think of. So instead of, don't try to filter what you bring to us. Instead, bring it to us, and we're happy to tell you, look, that's not a thing we are empowered to work with, or that's not a thing we feel comfortable or qualified or whatever. But don't hesitate to bring something to us because you think it doesn't belong and therefore you've sort of ruled it out. We're very open to talk to you about anything that you might want to bring up. And we really want to make this community a better place. So.
And you can type questions into the chat.
That's right.
And since we don't have any questions and we only have one attendee so far, Sora, please feel free to ask us any questions. So
or even tell us who you are, introduce yourself, anything you're comfortable doing.
Okay, we won't put you on the spot either. So other things.
Hold on. We have Sora.
I just like attend session because the titles are interesting. I wanted to see like what kind of support you guys are giving, because it's really an inspiring thing that you make a movement in this conference, in this big conference, that you are gonna take care of the discrimination and then harassment and every sort of things. Yeah, so I just wanted to check in and what kind of things are going on here. Yeah.
So we're doing a couple things in terms of trying to be more welcoming and inclusive for PhD students. So one of those things is called the Programming Language Mentoring Workshops. So every conference has one of those, and it's for new PhD students or even older PhD students who want to get advice on both soft skills and hard skills, like what research topics are hot, but also how to write a research paper, how to give a good talk, what are some examples of career paths that different people have taken. So you often hear from a senior researcher who takes you through their journey, why they chose to work on some problem, why they chose a certain university, just so you can see how different kinds of careers are unfold. And I think one of the fun things I find is you see these super successful people and you think everything's been a big success for them because here they are. And no, they've had lots of failures and lots of things have gone wrong. And being resilient in a research career, when your papers get rejected, when you don't get the job you want, that these different things are actually slightly more predictable in academia than they are in real life. Like you can't predict if my husband is going to dump me, but I can predict that some of my papers will get rejected. Not every paper will get in. So I can prepare myself for understanding what I should do and how I should behave when something doesn't get in and when something does get in. So I think those kinds of experiences at these programming languages workshops have are very valuable, and the students really enjoy that. So I'd recommend doing one of those. And then Alexandra, you've been involved in longer term mentoring, setting up those relationships. So I'll let you talk about that program.
Yeah, on the mentoring workshops, I should also say that they are open to undergraduates, and a lot of the attendees in the last few years have actually been undergraduates. I think we've had about maybe 30% of the attendees are undergraduates that don't know whether they want to go to grad school. And they come to the workshop to see what the community is like in PL. And maybe some of them end up in grad school in PL, which I think is also a nice side effect of the mentoring workshops, is that it sort of gives a first window to the community. And as Catherine was saying, people share not only successes, but also failures, and try to normalize a little bit more, talking about different paths inside grad school and after grad school. People from industry also attend, and that's very nice. And then on to complement PLMW, we have a new long-term mentoring program that is currently being set up and has had a couple of ad hoc editions, including the one at Splash, in which say senior PhD students, younger postdocs, young tenure track faculty get matched with people who are already established in the community and can provide some advice or mentoring outside the support they already have in their own institutions. And this is meant to be a one-year program, and people are supposed to meet 3 or 4 times in that year and sort of form long-term relationships that increase their support network beyond their immediate peers at their institutions. And that, I think, is going to be it's going to have long-term effect, I hope.
And if I could just add, part of it is this is all coming from people who are sort of well on the other side of graduate school at this point. I've been out of grad school almost as long as Catherine has, not quite, but almost as long. So we're not always aware of what needs to be addressed and what needs to be done. So we love getting input from people who are going through the process, either grad students, junior faculty, undergraduates, whoever, who tell us here's a need that needs to be addressed. We'd love to hear about those and work on addressing them. Another thing that we're also very conscious about is that, predominantly PL has tended to be kind of a North American, maybe Western European subject for historical reasons. And then, we've seen some amount of it coming from Japan, but there's sort of a very narrow distribution of places that the research has tended to come from. And that should change, and it can change, and it will change. But anything we can do to help with that. Last time we had one of these a few months ago, Catherine, I forget which event it was at, but people were talking about, language issues and, not being native English speakers and so on. And so certainly I think on this call, I'm just looking at the professors here. Alexandra is probably not a native English speaker. Hridesh is not, and I'm not. So we're very, very sympathetic to people who are not native English speakers. And Catherine's a native speaker of Texan, which is also a little different. So,
oh, no, I'm not. I wasn't a native Texan.
You did not see that coming, did you? So I like to say I've lived in multiple parts of North America, both Texas and the United States. So, anyway, on a more serious note, we do also want, all of those are also issues that if there's anything we can be doing at a community level, we're a useful conduit, a useful group to tell, and then we can try to work on it at the community level. So. Does that all help? Does that make some sense?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I do know about this PL mentoring workshop, and I actually attended a few years ago. In a different conference, and it was really nice. And I think I saw Catherine there. Yeah, and I think it's really nice workshop, and I got to know like the failures or the success or how they overcome their failures and how they grew up. But still, like I'm still struggling with this, like failing and success and every time, and it's a good reminder for me to know that, okay, everyone else is also failing and then overcome, so I can do it as well.
That's
Yeah.
right. And all of us, well, except for Sriram, who seems to love COVID. The rest of us,
Well,
the rest of us are having problems with the pandemic.
Let's be real clear. I don't love the disease. That didn't come out quite the way I was hoping it would. Sriram loves COVID. No, that's true. It's true. It's true, right? We're all dealing with various kinds of struggles because of this as well. But yeah, I mean, look, Sora, part of it is also a lot of our signaling and positioning also ends up impacting things, right? Like if you go on social media, people love to talk about how many papers they got accepted. They don't tell you about the papers they got rejected, right?
That has changed recently. People
it hasn't changed that much. Come on. Just today I saw like a half dozen, like, oh, my paper got accepted. No additional information, right? Just my paper got accepted into such and such conference. I think ASPLOS just came out with decisions or something. So there's a whole bunch of ASPLOS people are all excited about it. I can assure you that I have not seen a single tweet yet about how many papers got rejected about their papers getting rejected from ASPLOS. So
lots of papers were rejected, though.
Clearly, way more than papers were rejected than accepted, right? So
I'm
just
not sure if it was
statistically,
CCOM. There was a conference over the summer. I forgot which conference it was, but there was a large group of people talking about their papers being rejected.
yeah,
Which
Well,
I
that's
thought
the,
was refreshing.
I did see that, but it's still not proportional to the number of papers that got rejected, right? And that seems to have retracted. That seems to have gone away too. So I think part of the thing is, we signal our successes and we don't signal our failures. And to some extent, also, even if you don't signal, it's automatic. Like you go to the conference page and you see all the accepted papers. They don't show you the rejected papers for good reasons. So I think it just
isn't that just social media's purpose?
Yeah, well, there's that too. Well, there have been studies, right, that show that social media creates all sorts of anxieties for people because people like to show, implicitly like to show off. Like I have a policy that when I talk about bicycling, I never ever mention speeds or mileages or anything like that. Right?
You just showed the picture of your nice bike, and then we're all wondering how much is that bike cost.
You can wonder that, but you don't see distances, and you don't see mileages, and you don't see speeds, right? And because it just makes I have a friend on social media who tries to ride in 1 month what I do in about 2.5 days if I'm feeling good, right?
Are you telling me you're not on Strava?
I am not. Nate Foster is, and I am not. I'm purposely not on Strava too. Right?
Because you were losing. Sure.
Yeah, that's exactly why. That's really why Nate would kick my ass. So anyway, the point being that there are all these different mechanisms are just there to tell us about success and not about failure. So it's really easy to get the wrong message from all of that. But we all have a long list of scars behind us about things that have not worked out.
So I think one of the interesting things about the long-term mentoring program is that it provides people with a private setting to talk more about failures. And I think one of the motivations behind the long-term mentoring program was, job applications, in particular in a COVID year, and how do you navigate the job market if you're going into academia, but also in industry. And talking to people who were in the job market, perhaps during the financial crisis, and how did they handle that? And that's sort of one of the reasons why Talia actually started on Twitter talking about the need for such long-term mentoring programs. So yeah, sharing failure is sometimes a bit easier outside social media. I think people are happy to share their failures in private, perhaps less so publicly on social media.
Right. It's also tricky to talk about in public, right? Because my failure is invariably also someone else's failure. So I'm always a little conscious about, revealing something about somebody else's state. It's like there are some universities where your vita is required to list all of your grant submissions, not just your accepted grants, right?
Oh, really?
So yeah, and it's just a completely bizarre practice because sometimes you get asked to write a tenure letter for this person, and it's like, I really didn't need to know all this. I'm quite happy not to have known this, right? But if it's like A for effort kind of place, then that's what you list on your vita. You show that you're putting in an effort.
There are other subjects which I think, maybe the next generation would really like to talk to people about. For instance, how to do family planning if you're the academic market, or if you have a two-body problem, how do you handle? I mean, I guess, Shriram, you know much more than I do about this.
Can I just say, starting from the time I went on the job market, I refuse to use the term two-body problem. It's a two-body situation. I'm not willing to
two-body opportunity.
Maybe pushing it a little bit. Let's be honest. Like, situation is neutral. But no, right. No, that's a great point, Alexandra. And in fact, like, things that we would never dream of talking about once upon a time are things that people are feeling much more free to talk about now, which I think is a really good thing too.
Yeah.
I mean, the two-body thing is actually kind of interesting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think, for instance, one of the topics I've discussed with some of the people I've talked in this mentoring program is about fertility. And when a woman ends grad school close to her 30s, do you plan? I mean, these days, some companies are offering things like egg freezing and so on. And I think this is the sort of subject that perhaps at companies like Facebook and Google has become quite, I think people speak quite openly about it. Much less so in academia, I think, and it's probably much less normalized as a topic. And I think if we want to retain a diverse workforce, this is the type of concern that some people might have. Some people might not have, but some young postdoc might be thinking about the impact that doing a second postdoc or delaying going on the job market might have.
Or even, working for a while and putting away like retirement savings, right? Every time I talk to undergrads, I tell them, like, you're going to be shocked to hear me mention the R word because some of you are still 20 years old. But you all know as computer scientists how exponential growth works. And, savings just follow an exponential growth. I mean, it's a compound interest formula. You have no trouble understanding this formula. So working for a few years and either paying off loans or socking some money away could have a gigantic impact, when you're 65, which is not a thing you're thinking about now, but you will be thinking about when you're 65, right? So those are also sort of tricky things we don't normally think about, but I think are worth paying some attention to.
Dinner in the background.
That's right.
So I have a question for all four of you. So let's suppose that you have a concern that comes up during one of the conversations. Could you just walk the audience, both here as well as the YouTube, about that process and how that works out, so that the audience kind of understands what will happen and what kind of privacy expectations.
Right. Equally, what won't happen.
What won't happen. Right.
I think we should let Catherine take the lead on this. She's our boss. So.
Okay.
Who can answer that?
If something happens and you come to me and you send me an email, and I'll offer to meet with you on Zoom or correspond with you in email. So if you want to put it in an email or you want to talk in person, we'll do that. I won't even tell the other committee members who you are or what your concern is, except in the case if I feel completely out of my depth and I need a little extra advice, I'll ask your permission. May I consult with my colleagues, and still I will keep your name and the situation private, but I might ask for additional advice, but I would do that with your permission. And then you will tell me what happened, and I will say, like, I'm sorry that this happened to you, because when these things come up, it's very traumatic for the person, and I will give you your options as to what you can do. So, for example, if some talk had inappropriate content in it at UPSLA, I would say that you could speak to the conference organizers, or you can send a report form to ACM, So either of these ways of reporting is possible, or if you had a more serious concern, I would definitely recommend that you send a report directly to ACM. And if you don't want to report, I would say no problem. And I would ask you, if we hear of other reports like this in the future, would you like us to contact you again in case you like, maybe this was a one-off, but often it's a repeated pattern. So if multiple people are willing to come forward at the same time, then that can help. And so I'll write down what you said so that I will be able to confirm that, yes, you did report this and the day you reported it and the time, so that I'll have a record of that to support you in the future. And then if you want to talk again, or if you want us to act for you. So for example, I have reached at the request of a person, I reached out to someone in their department to discuss an issue and give them a different point of view and support with their colleague. So there is, but we like to pretty much not be involved. We prefer that you do the talking and going out. But if you want us to, sometimes that's appropriate, where we can help you by discussing something with someone else, but that's rare. Anything you want to add, Alexandra or Shriram?
Go ahead, Alexandra.
No, I was just going to say, to stress the privacy issue that, we will not disclose to anyone, including the other CARES committee members whom we're talking to. So if you reach out to us, you are completely safe in that respect. And I think perhaps Shriram said this before, or Catherine, we're not officials of any organization. So we're not gonna act in any way unless you ask us to, or ask us help to act. So it's more an advisory sort of role.
So the downside is we have no powers. The upside is we have no powers. Right. So by virtue of not having powers, there's only so much we can do. In some cases, the most we may be able to offer is sympathy and support. But the upside of that is you don't have to be worried about talking to us, because it's not like we are obliged to then rush off and do something, or go talk to someone, or report up the chain to ACM or something like that. In fact, the people who've set up CARES, the various people who set up CARES, have been careful to set it up so that we're not required to immediately send things up to ACM, and suddenly you have the president of the ACM calling you, and then all sorts of weird things happening that make reporting really uncomfortable. The analogy I was making the previous time was to things like Title IX in the US, right, where there are actually legal obligations there. So if you are what is called a responsible person under Title IX, and somebody talks to you, you are required to report it. And then, then there's all sorts of consequences that nobody can control. And that's, I think, a good thing about the design of CARES, that that's not going to happen here.
Thank you for clarifying that. That would be very, very helpful for our attendees to know. And as a general chair for Splash, I am also very committed to a harassment and discrimination-free environment at the conference, and I fully support the work of this committee. And the wonderful things that are happening here. So I can also be another conduit to get your, if you wish to keep your own information completely private, I can pass information on your behalf to the CARES committee as well. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
And we're seeing that at least in some other communities, there seem to be some fairly horrifying things going on. Like we're seeing with architecture, I guess, is having its more than its share of issues. So the good news is we haven't heard about any such issues in PL. I hope the good news is actually reflecting reality. So all of those, I mean, at some level, some of those things are going to be completely outside the scope of CARES, but those are still things that people can bring to us. You know, that's happening in architecture where people are anonymously writing to some prominent members in the community who are then using Medium to publish about it and raise awareness. We can also serve that kind of purpose for PL.
All right.
So
Thank you.
I'm curious, by the way, how is Splash running? I have, to be honest, I haven't paid much attention to the format. Is everything being mirrored for like 2 time zones or something?
Yeah. So the way Splash is running is to promote global inclusiveness. And the idea here is that if you're anywhere in the world and you pick 12 hours of your day, you should be able to see the main tracks of the conference.
I see. So some of the workshops may not be duplicated, but all the main parts are.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So the 3 main tracks would be you would be able to see irrespective of where you are located.
So that's what, like OOPSLA, Onward, and
OOPSLA, Onward, GPC, SLE,
DLS,
DLS, and SAS.
Oh, okay. So a good chunk of it. Okay, very nice. Yeah. So you actually missed this, but the previous CARES session, Steve Blackburn was there, and I'm so used to seeing everybody in their houses. I said, like, what are you doing? I recognize your office building. What are you doing in your office building? And they had set up, I guess, like a local event room. And he said about a dozen people or so were in the event room attending Splash from Canberra, from the CS department in Canberra, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. So it's I think. You started off earlier about how we can engage members of the community from around the world into the conference, and I think Splash is taking a really positive step forward by first going outside the U.S. It used to be a U.S. conference, primarily a North American conference.
Yep.
And so it has gone outside North America, and with this, the hope is that we are reaching corners of the world that we haven't been before, and allowing folks to attend the conference without staying up in the middle of the night, which a lot of times one has to do if the conference is located in Central Standard Time, for example,
right,
which is my time zone. It would, but then it turns out that one of the unique challenges with this conference, with this arrangement, is that the authors have to give their Q&A twice. But Dave Grove and Steve Blackburn have worked out a system. I don't know whether he had a chance to discuss that earlier.
No.
With you. So what they did was they asked authors to specify. They divided the clock, 24-hour clock, into 4 quadrants. And then they asked the authors to specify 6 hours of blackout time during those that 24 hours.
Okay.
And so what that did, what that achieved was that your typical sleeping time, like 12 midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning, where most computer scientists don't like to wake up, be awake during that time, you are not doing your Q&A.
Yeah.
And because Q&As are 12 hours apart, it's possible to solve this constraint problem while avoiding your 6-hour blackout.
I mean, there aren't that many papers that have only one author, right? Usually a paper has at least, like, maybe not every author, but at least like 2 authors who can typically take questions. So it seems like there's also maybe simpler solutions to some of these issues. I don't know. I haven't thought about it much.
I think people should get to sleep. I don't think we should be asking people to get up super early or stay up super late. That just reinforces the idea that computer science makes you sacrifice everything. And not only that, you have to get up at 4 a.m. some days. So I'm really very supportive of having reasonable time slots for everything. Where we say, you're a human being, you should get to sleep. And only if you have a baby should you be forced to get up in the middle of the night and you did that to yourself.
What we have.
But I guess I don't understand how that's not. I guess I don't understand how that's not happening in this system. That's what I didn't quite understand.
So because you have 12 hours, usually you're awake for 12 hours, right?
So the Q&A is spread all over the day. So you might get your Q&A, like this paper's Q&A might be at this time, that paper's Q&A might be at that time.
It's exactly 12 hours after your first Q&A.
Okay. So that means the paper is in some sense. Okay. I think my problem is I was assuming the old system where there's a contiguous schedule that's sort of fixed. So the schedule is being fitted to the authors rather than the authors being fitted to the schedule.
Right. So you have 12-hour mirroring and the authors.
Got it. No. Now I understand. Totally clear. I'm sorry. There is no traditional schedule. That's the key thing.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Got it.
There is still some grouping based on topics and things of that nature, but it's grouping by topics is not as important as the comfort of the human being who has to get up.
It's completely overrated anyway.
Yes, so that has been so it has worked out really nicely. So far, most folks have been very supportive of it. Authors have been very happy to see their work appear twice. At least that's the feedback that we are getting. You get more exposure. Students who hopefully, who sometimes work, years, 2 years on a paper, it's nice for them to get screen time twice and Q&A twice.
Yep.
And it has been. So there have been some talks that have been recorded, that have been given live. And to make it easier on the authors or presenters, we try to record those ourselves and replay it for them, so they don't have to, having to give the talk twice. We just record the content and then they just do the Q&A. That makes life a little bit easier for them. It's a bit more work for us, of course, but one of the staff members in my department is taking care of that for 6 days, 6 of these days. So it's working out reasonably well.
So here's the question I really want to know the answer to.
Yes.
What's going to happen next year? Let's say we all have vaccines and everything can go back to normal, like complete normal, meaning what the before times, right? We can go back to doing exactly what we did before. I sure as heck hope we're not going to go back to doing exactly what we did before. So what do you think is going to happen next year? Let's pretend that we're going to have everyone's going to be perfectly vaccinated. We can all be like 1 foot from each other, just like before, right? And we're all, there's going to be a live event in Chicago, presumably, because we're already paid for the hotels. We're going to lose that money, and ACM hates losing money. So we're all going to be in Chicago. And then what happens to everybody who's around the world then?
So we should certainly, so Splash has always done recording of talks. This is not a new thing. So Splash has been doing it for, I think, 1 year or 2 years. I don't remember the history of how long this has been going on. In fact, some other PL conferences are also doing a recording of talks. It is.
Yeah, but that's the easy part, right? Like Usenix has been recording talks for like a decade and a half now. Right. So yeah.
Right. But what has happened is that these recordings are just for the YouTube channel of SIGPlan. That has been the primary use for these recordings so far. last year in Athens, there was an opportunity to attend remotely.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a useful model that could be thought about. But this is not an easy question, and I don't pretend to have all the answers today, Shriram.
Yeah.
Just like if you have a hybrid class where you have some students who are in the class, and
I know. I've been teaching one all semester long. Yes.
Right, and it's very difficult to get communication. I mean, hybrid classes are more difficult to teach.
They are.
Than completely online or completely physical.
They are, but if they're part of your value system, then you figure out how to do it. Like everything's difficult, right? Flying halfway around the world is also difficult, and et cetera, et cetera. But if it's part of your value system, you figure it out. Catherine, it looked like you want to say something. Sorry.
So I think trying to create a better hybrid version where more people get to ask questions and see the short, have a conference-like experience, even though they aren't in person. I think that would, like, a lot of people would really enjoy it. My personal view is I can't imagine being on one more Zoom call or him all day long. And but the number of people that registered for PLDI, and I'm sure it's the same for OOPS, I'd like to hear the number, was like way beyond what we had ever seen before. And
Catherine, I couldn't register.
Huh?
I couldn't register. We're out of slots.
So
which is phenomenal.
That's right. So the opportunity to be more inclusive and build this better community is unprecedented.
Yeah.
How many slots did you have for Splash?
950.
950.
Yeah, so it's.
You have many people attending from countries that had never attended before, because PLDI had a lot of sort of first-time attendees from countries that had never.
We have, and we have many folks who are participating for longer time than we haven't participated before. It looks like we are just at the dot.
Yeah.
At 8:20. And I am needed in the awards session. So I will see you all. It was pleasure seeing you again after some time, Shriram and Kat.
Absolutely.
And it was a pleasure meeting with you, Alexandra and Sarah. Take care. And talk soon.
Nice to see you, Sora. Thank you for joining.
Sora, thank you for coming. And if there's anything you'd like to suggest or talk to us about, or personally or professionally or anything, we're all here, happy to chat. Hopefully that's evident by now. And if not, just want to make that clear. So thank you for joining the call.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
No worries. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, good seeing you guys. Really good. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too.